Welcome to the Ask Junior Daily Judgment podcast. I'm Priya Sharma, and joining me today is Arjun Gupta.
Hello, everyone. We're excited to dive into today's important judgments. But before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast if you enjoy our daily legal breakdowns.
That's right. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue providing in-depth analysis of the latest court decisions. Now, let's get started with today's case. Our case today is Richard J. Tornetta versus Elon Musk and others, a decision from the Court of Chancery of the state of Delaware.
This case sounds interesting, Priya. What's it all about?
It involves a derivative action against Tesla, which is a lawsuit brought by a shareholder on behalf of the company itself. In this instance, several Tesla shareholders attempted to object to a fee petition following post-trial proceedings. They wanted to challenge the fees awarded to lawyers who represented Tesla in the case. This is a really important topic because it goes to the heart of how shareholders can participate in litigation involving the companies they invest in.
You mentioned a fee petition. What's that all about?
Good point, Arjun. A fee petition is a request from a lawyer asking the court to approve payment of fees and expenses incurred in representing a party in a case. In this case, the lawyers representing Tesla sought approval to be paid for their work.
So, why did the shareholders object to the fees in this case?
That's a great question. The shareholders felt the fees were too high, but the court ultimately ruled that they didn't have the legal standing to object in the first place. This is where things get a little complex.
Okay, let's break down this standing issue. What does it mean for a shareholder to have standing in a case like this?
In legal terms, standing refers to the right of a party to bring a lawsuit in court. To have standing, you must have a direct personal interest in the outcome of the case. In this situation, the court decided that the shareholders didn't have a direct enough interest to object to the fee petition.
It seems odd that shareholders wouldn't have standing to object to fees, especially if the fees could affect their investment. Can you give us an analogy to help understand this better?
Imagine you're a passenger on a bus. If the bus driver is speeding and you're worried about your safety, you might have standing to raise concerns with the driver. However, you wouldn't have standing to challenge the bus company's decision to replace the driver, because that decision doesn't directly impact you as a passenger. Here, the shareholders were like those bus passengers. They were worried about their investment, but the court ruled that the fee petition wasn't something they could directly challenge because it was a matter between Tesla and its lawyers.
So it's about the legal relationship between the shareholder, Tesla, and the lawyers involved.
Exactly. Let's move on to the key legal issues in the case. Here the court considered,
Go ahead. I'm ready to dig in.
first, whether stockholders have standing to object in post-trial proceedings of a derivative action. As we just discussed, the court ultimately decided they did not. Second, whether stockholders' counsel are entitled to attorney's fees and expenses. Since the court denied standing to the shareholders, it necessarily followed that their lawyers' fees were not going to be approved. Third, the validity of the stockholders' arguments regarding the fee petition and ratification argument. Although the court did not find the shareholders' arguments persuasive enough to challenge the fee petition, they acknowledged the value of their input.
Priya, what was the court's reasoning for denying standing to the shareholders?
The court focused on two key things. First, the lack of class action status in the case, and second, the importance of procedural efficiency.
Let's take those points one by one. Why does the class action status matter here?
A class action lawsuit is when a group of people with similar claims sue a defendant together. In class actions, there are usually representatives who act on behalf of the entire group. This allows the representative to have broader standing in the case to raise concerns on behalf of all class members. This was not a class action. It was a derivative action where the shareholders were individually trying to raise objections. The court reasoned that this case was not a class action and that individual stockholders therefore didn't have standing. They argued that allowing individual shareholders to object in a derivative action would create chaos and undermine the orderly proceedings of the court.
So, this case is saying that individual shareholders have a harder time challenging decisions involving their company than a larger group of shareholders acting together in a class action lawsuit.
That's a good way to put it, Arjun. The court was concerned about the potential for endless objections if it allowed individual shareholders to intervene in every case. They emphasized the importance of maintaining the efficiency of the court process and ensuring that the focus remains on resolving the main lawsuit.
Makes sense. What were the court's concerns regarding the procedural efficiency of the court?
The court felt that allowing every stockholder to raise objections could clog up the system and create an endless loop of litigation. They believed that the lawyers already representing Tesla had sufficient incentives to represent their interests, and that allowing individual shareholders to inject their own opinions might be unnecessary and create chaos.
It sounds like the court prioritized the process and efficiency over the individual concerns of the shareholders.
That's an important takeaway, Arjun. The court said that the shareholders' arguments didn't change the outcome of the case. They were considered, but they ultimately didn't sway the judge's decision.
So, what are the implications of this decision?
This ruling sets a precedent for how shareholder participation in derivative actions is handled. It suggests that the court will be hesitant to allow individual shareholders to object in these situations, particularly when it could interfere with the efficient resolution of the case. It also reinforces the importance of carefully reviewing the standing requirements of the parties involved in a case.
It's a reminder that, while shareholders have rights, they don't necessarily have the right to intervene in every aspect of a case involving their company.
Exactly. While the court recognized the value of shareholder input, they emphasized that procedural fairness and efficiency are crucial to the smooth functioning of the legal system. This case makes it clear that there needs to be a balance between the rights of shareholders and the need for orderly and efficient legal proceedings.
This is an important case for anyone interested in shareholder rights and how they can participate in the legal process.
And that wraps up our analysis of today's judgment. We hope you found our discussion informative and engaging.
Before we sign off, we'd like to remind our listeners once again to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing you daily updates on the most important legal decisions.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another exciting episode. Until then, this is Priya Sharma.
And Arjun Gupta, signing off. Thanks for listening to the Ask Junior Daily Judgment podcast.